This morning is not ordinary. You didn't wake up by accident, and you're not standing here by chance. There is an assignment on your life that cannot be fulfilled by what you see, but only by what you believe. Sight will tell you the facts, but faith reveals the truth. Sight measures the problem, faith magnifies the promise. And today, before you step into the noise of the world, this prayer is here to realign your heart, your mind, and your walk, so you move forward, not by what looks possible, but by what God has already declared. Body, motivational prayer, and message. Heavenly Father, this morning we choose faith over fear. We confess that too often we let our eyes decide our confidence. We look at our bank account and doubt provision. We look at our circumstances and question your presence. We look at delays and assume denial. But today we repent of living by sight alone. Teach us to walk by faith when the road is unclear. Teach us to trust when answers are silent. Teach us to obey even when understanding is incomplete. Faith is not pretending the problem isn't real. Faith is knowing the problem isn't final. Faith is stepping forward when logic says stop. Faith is praising before the breakthrough appears. Lord, strengthen the inner vision of your people. When doors seem closed, remind us that you are still working behind the scenes. When prayers feel unanswered, remind us that you are never inactive. When fear tries to speak louder than truth, silence it with your promises. We declare this morning that we will not be ruled by appearances. We will not be discouraged by delays. We will not surrender to what we see, because faith sees further. Help us walk in obedience even when it costs comfort. Help us trust your timing even when we feel rushed. Help us stand firm even when the ground feels unstable. We choose faith over feelings, truth over tension, promise over pressure. And as we walk into this day, we walk confidently, not because everything makes sense, but because you are faithful. Have you ever felt like life is closing in on you, that the walls are moving closer and the pressure is just too much to bear? Maybe the bills are piling up, the relationships are strained, or the dreams you've held on to so tightly seem to be slipping through your fingers. You're not alone. In those moments, it's tempting to trust what your eyes are showing you, to let circumstances dictate your confidence, and to let fear whisper that everything is over. But let me tell you something. The eyes can deceive. The situation can lie. And the truth you need is not in what you see. Faith sees beyond circumstances. Faith isn't limited by the here and now. It stretches forward into the realm of the unseen, the promised, and the yet to come. Imagine standing on a cliff, the wind raging against you, the ground trembling beneath your feet. Your eyes tell you it's impossible to move forward. Every instinct screams to retreat, to find safety, to step back and wait until the storm passes. But faith calls you to look beyond what's visible, to fix your gaze on the horizon where God's promises are waiting. That's the difference between living by sight and living by faith. When you live by sight, the storm defines your steps. When you live by faith, the promise defines your steps. Your eyes see only the temporary, the limited, the difficulty that presses down on you. But faith sees what is eternal, what is abundant, and what is already being prepared for you, even when you can't sense it yet. Have you ever noticed how the greatest breakthroughs often come when everything looks impossible? When the doctors say it can't be done, when the finances are zero, when every door seems closed and every plan seems futile, that is when faith shines the brightest. Faith doesn't depend on the visible. Faith operates in the invisible. Faith believes that God's provision is bigger than your paycheck, that his protection is stronger than your fear, and that his plan is greater than the obstacles in front of you. And here's the key. The more impossible it looks, the more powerful your faith can become. Think about the heroes of faith in history, the ones who dared to trust what they could not see. They faced giants, storms, and empty coffers, yet they pressed on. Why? Because they refused to be ruled by circumstances. They refused to let the numbers, the lack, or the fear dictate their destiny. They fixed their eyes not on what was in front of them, but on what God had promised. And faith made them move forward, take risks, and step into what others would have called impossible. Your situation might feel overwhelming today, but it doesn't define you. Your circumstances might be loud, threatening, and insistent, but they are not the final word. Here's the truth you need to grab onto. Sight is temporary, but faith is enduring. Sight can fail you, but faith never will. Sight is limited to what is present. Faith reaches into the possibilities that are invisible to the naked eye. Right now, there may be challenges, setbacks, and disappointments, but if you refuse to let them dictate your steps, faith will guide you through. Faith sees beyond the paycheck, beyond the diagnosis, beyond the relationship strain, beyond the missed opportunity. Faith doesn't deny reality, but it refuses to be limited by it and operates on the principle that what God has promised will come to pass, regardless of the evidence staring back at you. Do you feel that stirring inside your heart? The nudge to rise above what you see? That's faith, whispering that there is more, that your story is not over, and that you are being prepared for something greater. Every time you choose faith over fear, you are building an unshakable foundation for your life. Every time you look past the temporary setbacks and focus on the eternal promise, you are stepping into a reality that others cannot see. And here's something even more powerful. The more you exercise faith in impossible situations, the stronger it becomes. Every act of trusting beyond what you see is a step toward breaking free from limitations. You have to understand this. The world will always try to get you to believe only what is visible. The world will show you the bills, the delays, the rejections, the failures, and the setbacks. But you are called to walk differently. You are called to live in a reality that transcends sight. Faith is the lens through which you see the unseen, hear the unheard, and move in the direction of what is already promised. The obstacles may scream louder than ever, but faith can whisper louder than the noise. It can steady your hands, calm your heart, and guide your steps into the impossible. Now is the time to stop letting your eyes control your faith. Stop letting temporary setbacks dictate your confidence. Stop believing that what is visible is all there is. Faith sees beyond circumstances. Faith looks at the storm and sees the rainbow. Faith looks at the desert and sees the river. Faith looks at the mountain and sees the path. It refuses to be bound by what is happening and chooses to be anchored in what is coming. Have you ever found yourself standing at a crossroads, unsure of which way to go, waiting for a sign, waiting for clarity, waiting for every piece of the puzzle to fall into place before you make a move? Maybe you've prayed, sought advice, and studied every angle, yet nothing seems clear. You want to understand every step before taking it, but life isn't designed that way. Here's the truth that most people miss. Obedience precedes understanding. Waiting for full understanding before acting is often the very trap that keeps you from experiencing breakthrough. The moment you step in obedience, clarity begins to unfold, doors start to open, and the path you couldn't see before suddenly becomes visible. Think about it. How many times have you hesitated because the instructions didn't make sense, because the risks were unclear, or because the outcome seemed uncertain? How many opportunities have passed by while you waited for perfect clarity? That hesitation isn't wisdom. It's fear disguised as caution. Obedience is not about knowing everything. It's about trusting that the one who called you has a plan far greater than your limited perspective. The call may seem small, insignificant, or even confusing, but every act of obedience plants a seed for something far bigger than you can imagine. Imagine being told to step into a new job, start a new ministry, or move to a new city without knowing exactly how it will work out. Your mind screams with questions. What if I fail? What if I make a mistake? What if it doesn't turn out like I hope? That's when obedience becomes the key. Obedience is not reckless, it is faith in action. It is doing what you know to be right, even when the full picture is hidden, even when the path seems unclear, even when your heart wants guarantees that will never come. The moment you choose obedience, understanding begins to chase you. The moment you act in faith, wisdom steps in to guide your feet. There is something supernatural that happens when you obey. It's almost like the universe, or rather the divine, leans in to give you insight you couldn't have earned through planning or analysis alone. Doors that seemed sealed suddenly swing wide. People who were previously out of reach begin to align with your purpose. Circumstances that seem chaotic start to fall into place. And here's the most remarkable thing. The clarity that comes after obedience often surpasses what you could have understood beforehand. You see, understanding alone does not bring results. Action in obedience brings results. Have you noticed that the most successful people, the most impactful leaders, the ones whose lives inspire millions, were rarely waiting for perfect understanding before they acted? They stepped when they were called, even when it didn't make sense, even when they didn't have all the answers. Their faith translated into action, and the answers revealed themselves along the way. Obedience is a dynamic force. It moves you forward when hesitation would have kept you stuck. It turns questions into experiences, doubts into lessons, and uncertainty into clarity. It's easy to get caught up in wanting to understand everything. We live in a world obsessed with knowledge, data, and analysis. We want formulas and step-by-step guides before we take even a small step. Life's greatest breakthroughs rarely come from understanding alone. They come from doing what you know you should do, even when the reason isn't clear. Obedience opens the door for understanding to catch up. Waiting for understanding alone keeps the door closed. Here's another powerful truth. Every act of obedience builds momentum. Every choice to obey, no matter how small, prepares your heart and your mind for the bigger challenges ahead. Obedience is like planting seeds. You may not see the full bloom immediately, but each seed is vital for the harvest. Even when the results seem delayed, even when the path is hard, even when the payoff is invisible, obedience is creating the foundation for something extraordinary. You've been holding back because you don't understand the how. The how rarely comes first. The how often comes after the first step. Obedience triggers a chain reaction. When you step forward in faith, solutions appear, guidance arrives, and insight begins to unfold. The key is to start. The key is to act on what you know is right. Even when every question hasn't been answered, even when the fear is loud, even when logic says pause.
Remember, understanding is often the reward of obedience, not its prerequisite. Waiting until you fully comprehend every detail keeps you stagnant.
Acting in obedience, however, activates a force that brings understanding in its perfect time. Obedience breaks the paralysis of overthinking, frees you from the illusion of control, and aligns you with a plan far bigger than your own imagination. Have you felt that stirring in your spirit, that quiet nudge urging you to take the next step? That is the call of obedience. That is the invitation to trust before you fully understand. That is the door you've been waiting to open and the step you've been hesitant to take. Every great journey starts with one step of obedience, even if the entire path isn't clear. Have you ever waited so long for a breakthrough That doubt started whispering louder than hope. Maybe you've prayed, pleaded, and poured your heart into the invisible, yet nothing seems to move. You're standing at the edge of your promise, but the path forward looks uncertain. Here's the truth you must grasp. Your breakthrough doesn't always wait for your understanding. It often waits for your praise. Praise before the breakthrough is one of the most powerful weapons you can wield in the battle of faith. It flips your perspective, shifts your atmosphere, and releases a supernatural power that no circumstances can contain. Think about it. When the Israelites were trapped between Pharaoh's army and the Red Sea, what did they do? Did they complain, panic, or retreat? No. They lifted their eyes and trusted in the presence of God. They praised before the miracle appeared. The walls hadn't crumbled yet. The waters hadn't parted. But praise was the seed that released the power of deliverance. And that same principle applies to your life today. Waiting for the perfect moment to praise is like waiting for sunlight to plant seeds. You'll never see growth if you don't act in faith first. Praise unlocks the invisible and turns the impossible into reality. Have you ever noticed how your spirit responds when you praise in the middle of struggle? There's an energy, a shift, a lifting of heaviness that occurs the moment your words align with faith rather than fear. Praise before the breakthrough isn't pretending the problem isn't real. It's acknowledging that something greater is at work on your behalf. Even when your eyes see obstacles, praise defies the evidence, silences doubt, and positions your heart to receive what God has already promised. The longer you wait to lift your voice, the longer you stay trapped in the weight of your circumstances. Praise releases the grip of fear, and it releases your breakthrough. Imagine standing in the middle of a storm, wind howling, rain pouring, everything shaking around you. Your natural instinct is to brace, to fear, to question. But faith calls you to respond differently. It calls you to lift your voice, to speak victory into the chaos, to praise before the storm subsides. That praise is more than words. It's a declaration that your trust is not dependent on what you see. It's an alignment of your heart with the power of God, a refusal to let circumstances dictate your joy or your destiny. And when you do this, the supernatural begins to move. Every great breakthrough in history has a pattern. Praise first, manifestation second. David praised in the wilderness while running from enemies. Paul and Silas praised in the prison while their chains remained fastened. Every act of praise in the middle of adversity sets in motion a chain reaction that cannot be stopped. It shifts atmospheres, it moves angels, it unsettles strongholds. Praise is a prophetic declaration, speaking victory into your future before it becomes visible. Have you been waiting for the problem to be solved before you start praising? That's backward. Faith understands that God's power is not limited by the present moment. The miracle is often closer than it appears, but it requires your voice to release it. Praise creates a pathway for the impossible. Praise opens doors that logic and human effort cannot. Praise invites God's presence to invade the situation, breaking limitations that seem permanent. The power of praise lies not in the external noise, but in the internal posture of your heart. You can sing in a quiet room, lift your hands in solitude, or whisper words of gratitude in your spirit, and the effect is the same. Your praise resonates in the spiritual realm, creating momentum for what is yet unseen. It shifts your mindset from lack to abundance, from fear to faith, from despair to expectation. And here's the key. The longer you lift your voice in praise, the stronger your faith grows, and the more prepared you are to receive the breakthrough when it comes. Praise before the breakthrough is an act of courage. It takes courage to rejoice when your eyes tell you to weep, to worship when the answer seems delayed, to declare victory when the enemy screams defeat. That courage is what releases supernatural intervention. That courage positions your life in alignment with God's promise. That courage transforms your struggle into a testimony before the victory is even visible. Have you ever felt the stirring in your heart, the nudge to lift your voice, even when your circumstances seem immovable?
That is the moment to respond. That is the moment to praise.
That is the moment where faith intersects with action and the breakthrough begins to take shape. Praise before the breakthrough is more than a spiritual discipline. It is the declaration of trust, a weapon in the unseen, and the key to unlocking what has already been promised, but not yet manifested. Have you ever felt the frustration of waiting, staring at the calendar, counting the days, and wondering why things haven't happened yet? Maybe you've prayed relentlessly, taken steps of faith, and done everything in your power, yet the doors you expected to open remain closed. That tension, that impatience, that feeling of being stuck, it's one of the greatest tests of faith you will ever face. Here's the truth. God's timing is perfect, even when it feels delayed. Trusting his timing isn't always easy, but it is essential, because what is meant for your life will not be rushed, and what is not ready will not be forced. Imagine planting a seed in your garden. You water it, you give it sunlight, and you wait. You can't force it to grow faster than it is meant to grow. If you try to dig it up every day to see if it's ready, risk destroying what has already been planted. That is exactly how life works. Many of us try to force outcomes because we see the surface, because our impatience makes us want answers now. But the truth is, what you are waiting for is being prepared, strengthened, and made perfect for you, even if you cannot yet see it. Trusting God's timing means letting go of your clock and aligning with his calendar. Have you ever looked at someone else's life and wondered why their blessing came so quickly while yours seems delayed? Don't fall into comparison, because God's timing is never unfair. It is always precise. Every season of waiting is a season of preparation. Every pause is an opportunity for growth. Every delay is protection from what is not yet ready or not yet good for you. Faith understands that being patient does not mean being passive. It means remaining active in trust while the timing unfolds. The enemy will often try to convince you that delay is denial, that waiting is waste, that timing is irrelevant. But that is a lie. Every delay is intentional, every pause is purposeful, and every moment is orchestrated to ensure that when the blessing arrives, it arrives in fullness. Trusting God's timing requires perspective. Seeing beyond the immediate frustration to the ultimate good that is being worked into your life. It's easy to become discouraged when results don't appear instantly, but the longer you trust in divine timing, the stronger your faith grows and the more you align with what is truly meant for you. Think about the stories of the faithful in history. Abraham waited decades for the promise of a child. Joseph endured years of prison and betrayal before the dream was fulfilled. David spent time in the wilderness before his throne was established. Each of these examples is a reminder that timing is not about the speed of your desire, but about the perfection of the plan. What you see as delay may actually be divine strategy, preparing you, refining you, and positioning you for something far greater than you imagine. Have you ever considered that rushing into a blessing too soon can rob you of its full impact? Sometimes the preparation is just as important as the reward. Trusting God's timing allows you to mature in character, deepen in wisdom, and strengthen in perseverance. Every challenge, every test, every season of waiting is a building block, shaping you into someone capable of handling the very thing you are anticipating. Impatience can lead to mistakes, cheat cuts, and regrets, but trust keeps you aligned with the purpose that cannot be hurried or circumvented.
Notice how often the breakthrough comes at the exact moment when faith has been exercised long enough to handle it. There's a season to plant, a season to water, and a season to reap.
Trust is what allows you to remain steady through the planting and watering seasons, knowing that the harvest will come in the appointed time. Waiting doesn't mean standing still. It means trusting, praying, and moving forward in alignment with God's principles, while letting the timing be controlled by wisdom greater than your own. Have you felt the impatience creeping in, that urge to take matters into your own hands, to force the outcome, to skip the waiting period? That is the test. That is the moment to choose trust over control. Trusting God's timing requires surrender. It requires humility. It requires believing that the hand guiding your life knows the perfect moment to release every promise, answer every prayer, and bring every plan to fruition. Even when the clock says one thing and your heart says another, trust that the timing is right. Waiting on God is not wasted time. It is invested time. Every act of patience strengthens your faith. Every moment of trust sharpens your spiritual discernment. Every pause builds resilience. The waiting period is your training ground, your refining process, and the stage where faith is proven. Your breakthrough will not arrive too early, and it will not arrive too late. It will come at the exact right moment, in the fullness of preparation, and in a way that exceeds what you could have orchestrated yourself. Have you ever noticed how easy it is to settle for comfort, even when you know your destiny requires more? We live in a world that values ease, security, and predictability. The life you were created for rarely comes wrapped in seed. Comfort. True progress, true growth, and true breakthrough demand courage over comfort. Courage is the engine that drives you beyond the familiar, beyond the safe, beyond the ordinary, while comfort is often the anchor that keeps you stagnant, settling for less than what God has promised. Imagine standing at the edge of opportunity, a door that could change your life forever, and feeling the pull of comfort holding you back. Comfort whispers, stay here, it's safer this way. Don't risk rejection. Don't risk failure. Don't risk the unknown. Courage, on the other hand, whispers, step forward. You were made for this. Trust the process. Trust the one who called you. Embrace the challenge and move boldly. Most people choose comfort because it feels good. It feels predictable. It feels safe. But courage is what leads to greatness, to impact, and to fulfillment beyond imagination. Think about the pioneers, the trailblazers, and the heroes of faith throughout history. They didn't choose comfort, they chose courage. They left familiar towns, abandoned secure careers, and stepped into uncertainty because they trusted the promise over the present. Their courage allowed them to face storms, overcome obstacles, and achieve what others deemed impossible. Every time you choose courage over comfort, you step into alignment with your purpose. Every time you refuse to let fear dictate your actions, you unlock potential that had been lying dormant inside you. Have you ever noticed how comfort can disguise itself as peace while it's actually stagnation? You might feel safe, protected, and even content, but that contentment can become a cage. Comfort often keeps you from taking the steps you know you should take. It keeps you from speaking your truth, pursuing your dream, or stepping into the calling that God has placed on your life. Courage, however, is never about recklessness. It's about choosing the right path even when it's difficult, choosing faith over fear, and refusing to let temporary discomfort stop you from pursuing eternal purpose. The reality is every breakthrough in life requires stepping out of your comfort zone. You can't grow where you are if you cling to what is familiar. You can't reach new heights if you're afraid to leave the ground you know. Courage forces you to embrace the unknown, to trust beyond the visible, and to act even when every instinct says retreat. It is the bridge between where you are and where you are called to be. And here's the truth. Comfort will always try to convince you that staying put is the safer choice. But courage knows that safety is often an illusion, and that the only way to truly live is to step forward. Have you ever considered how many opportunities you've missed simply because you chose comfort? How many doors never opened? How many relationships never formed? How many dreams never came to life? All because fear of discomfort outweighed faith in the promise. Courage isn't the absence of fear. It's the decision to act despite fear. It's the choice to move forward when the path is uncertain, when the stakes are high, and when the world says it's too risky. Every step of courage pushes you closer to your destiny, closer to the life you were meant to live. Courage over comfort also means embracing temporary pain for permanent gain. The discomfort of stepping into the unknown is fleeting, but the reward of obedience, growth, and purpose is everlasting. It's what separates those who live average lives from those who leave legacy. Courage empowers you to make sacrifices, take bold risk, and break free from mediocrity. Comfort will always keep you in the familiar cycle, but courage propels you into the extraordinary. Every time you face a decision that requires more faith, more risk, more persistence, remember that comfort is optional, but courage is essential. Courage calls you to rise above fear, to speak boldly, to act decisively, and to embrace the challenges that shape your character and destiny. Comfort may feel safe in the moment, but courage transforms your life, your future, and your impact. Have you felt that pull inside you, the whisper nudging you to move forward despite the risk, the fear, or the uncertainty? That is courage calling you to step beyond comfort, to take the leap, to trust the process, and to pursue the life you were created to live. Courage doesn't wait for perfect conditions. It acts in alignment with purpose, trust, and faith. Every act of courage strengthens your spirit, sharpens your resolve, and positions you for the next level.
Have you ever woken up feeling drained, discouraged, or unsure if you have the strength to face the day? Maybe yesterday's battles are still fresh in your mind, and the weight of responsibilities, doubts, or fears seems heavier than ever.
It's in these moments that the truth becomes crystal clear. Faith is not a one-time event.
Faith is a daily choice. It is a deliberate decision you make every morning to trust, to hope, and to believe, even when circumstances scream otherwise.
Every day you wake up, you are faced with a decision. Will you live by what you see, or will you live by what you believe? Imagine life as a battlefield. Each day brings its own set of challenges, temptations, distractions, and trials. The enemy will constantly try to shake your confidence, cloud your vision, and tempt you to surrender to fear, doubt, or despair. But faith is the weapon that can turn every battle into a victory. Choosing faith daily is not passive, it is active, intentional, and relentless. It's the choice to keep your eyes on the promise rather than the problem, to trust in unseen solutions rather than visible obstacles, and to act with courage even when the way forward is unclear. Have you noticed how easy it is to rely on feelings, circumstances, or external validation to guide your day? The world encourages you to respond to what is immediate, tangible, and visible, but faith calls you to respond to what is eternal and true. Every morning, you have the opportunity to decide whether you will allow fear, doubt, and worry to rule your day, or whether you will anchor yourself in the promises that have been set before you. Faith is not a once-in-a-lifetime experience. It is a daily commitment to choose trust over anxiety, hope over despair, and belief over skepticism. Think about the small choices you make every day. They may seem insignificant at the time, but each choice to trust God, each act of obedience, and each moment of gratitude is a step in strengthening your faith. Choosing to speak words of life instead of complaint, to pray instead of panic, to act instead of freeze, these are the daily decisions that build a foundation of unwavering faith. And the remarkable truth is, these small, consistent choices compound over time, creating a life that is resilient, victorious, and aligned with purpose. Have you ever been tempted to think that faith is only required for the big moments? That once you have prayed, believed, or taken a step, you can relax and wait for the outcome? That is a misconception. Faith is most powerful when it is exercised consistently in the ordinary moments as well as the extraordinary. It's in the daily grind, the repeated challenges, and the small victories that faith grows strong, unshakable, and ready to carry you through the storms that are inevitable in life. Every sunrise brings a fresh invitation to choose faith. Will you complain about the traffic, the challenges at work, or the conflicts at home? Or will you trust that God is working all things together for your good? Will you focus on what is lacking? Or will you focus on what has already been provided? Will you allow fear to control your decisions? Or will you step boldly knowing that unseen forces are working on your behalf? Each day, faith is not just a feeling. It is a deliberate, conscious decision that shapes the trajectory of your life. Have you ever considered that the moments you feel weakest are the moments that build the strongest faith? When everything inside you says give up, and yet you choose to hope, pray, and act anyway. Your faith is being refined, strengthened, and made unshakable. Choosing faith daily doesn't mean that life becomes easy. It means that your heart becomes resilient, your mind becomes focused, and your spirit becomes empowered to rise above challenges, doubt, and delay. Faith is also contagious. Every time you choose to trust, to act in obedience, and to remain hopeful, you inspire others to do the same. Your daily choice of faith creates ripples that affect your family, friends, community, and even strangers who witness your perseverance. Choosing faith isn't just about surviving your day. It's about living with influence, purpose, and impact. Every day, the invitation stands before you. Will you live according to what is seen or according to what is promised? Will you let fear, worry, and doubt dictate your decisions, or will you anchor yourself in the unseen, trusting that God's plan is active, unfolding, and perfectly timed? Faith is not reserved for emergencies, crises, or miraculous moments. It is meant to be your daily practice, your guiding principle, and your foundation for everything you do. Have you felt that inner tug, that quiet whisper urging you to rise, trust, and choose hope over despair today? That is the call to exercise faith, to commit your day to trust, and to walk boldly into the challenges, opportunities, and blessings that lie ahead. Every morning, faith gives you the power to transform ordinary moments into extraordinary victories, setbacks into stepping stones, and challenges into testimonies of triumph.